always here, but today more so.
Are you in, Brenda? Are you in now? Hmm. No, it's is Pam Atkinson? Okay, I
Hi,
see her name.
I just
Hi,
got
Pam. Oh, there you are, Brenda. Okay, now I see. Okay, girl, I was getting nervous. This Zoom thing is something. Okay, well, I'm gonna hang up. Okay, can't hear you. All right, this hey. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay, now
Okay.
I'm unmuted.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to talk about what opera is.
We're going to talk about opera, yeah.
Talk about oratorio at all, or just?
You're going to talk about oratorio. We're going to talk about opera, and then I'm going to, I wanted to introduce you again. So what did I do with your introduction? That little introduction I did.
Okay. So will the same lady that was kind of hosting last time, will she be doing the same thing?
This is a different one,
Okay.
but it's, but she'll be doing the same type of thing. That was Natasha,
Mm-hmm.
but she'll be doing, Pam will be doing the same thing. Wish we had a little, some of your students are some of your students studying, yeah, they studying seriously. Little opera things. I wish I had, known to get
Oh, to get copies of.
because I have something from Ellington that you gave me, but it's just music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not,
Yeah, we talked before, and I thought you could use that, and then when my focus went somewhere else, I just didn't revisit.
I've got it too. Yeah. I'll do one demonstration.
Okay. I need to go and shut this door to the studio. Hold on. So you don't get me. 1 second. Okay.
I love your lighting.
Oh, you know what this is? It's better than the ring light.
I have the ring. What
Yeah,
do you have?
I think it's better than the ring light. This is actually my lighting for my plants. And it's little bars.
Oh yeah,
Right, I
yeah.
can move them however. So I think I don't have trying to show a little bit of my art, but that's all right. A little too far up there. All right, how much time? Do you know? Okay, we're about to start. Do you know how to turn off the notifications on the computer? Because I don't want to get
Notifications.
Yeah, those little dings that you get.
Yeah, I don't know why you asking me.
I thought maybe you have recently asked someone and could share it with a sister.
I really do not know why you asked me.
Okay, I meant to ask. There it is, notifications. And
Rachel or Brenda, I
Yes.
need to say how confusing it is to see Angelique on Rachel as Rachel when I know Angelique is not here. And I
Oh,
think
so that's,
that was-
oh, okay, so that's Rachel.
But that's Rachel.
She's on about, she's herself.
No. It says, it's got Angelique's picture and Rachel's
Yes.
name.
Right, uh-huh. Is Angelique on?
No, I know she's not, because it's my night to try to take over.
Oh,
for her.
host, yes, okay,
I
yes.
know she's not. And Sylvia, it's so great to meet you. I've heard just such wonderful things.
Same here.
Hear your wonderful program. I was on, as I will be, I was covered up last week when Angelique was hosting, but I did get to hear your great conversation. Thank you. And Brenda, you would remember that I did say it would be fun at least to hear what does a mezzo soprano sound like versus an alto soprano. And you said you would talk to Sylvia about possibly giving us a note or two. Did you talk to her?
I did, we actually was gonna.
She has me on recording. I've been working all day, so she has me on recording, and we'll use that. And
Okay. Well, I'm very, very excited. Boy, I just don't know why my
Now, I
the is
told
so
Brenda
strong in
that-
back of me, but
I told Brenda it'd be great if she and I could do a joint recital
yes,
in that area. So
yes. Why can't you do it tonight? Why can't you just improvise a little bit tonight?
I'm gonna give a smidgen, I'm gonna do a demonstration of a recitative. So you'll hear that. And plus you'll hear
Arrested a what?
a recitative. I'll explain what it is.
All right, all right. Well, I'm looking forward to it, but I did want
Okay.
all folks to know that I'm looking forward to tonight, and I'm hoping, I see it's just a little after 6, but we're also, Rachel, if you can hear me on there, we're not screen sharing with the.
Yeah, I'm still
presentation
pulling
time.
everything up. I can do that right now.
All right, here comes our first guest. That's great. All righty. And hopefully we'll have a lot more people as the evening goes on.
I hope so.
will this go out to Facebook like it did the last time?
Yes, we're going to go on Facebook Live. Yes. There we go.
Okay, so I'm Brenda. I'm going to mute myself.
Okay.
And I'm going to mute. We're going to give it. Let's give it 5 more minutes for a few more people to come on. Okay, everybody. About
Okay.
5 more minutes.
All right, so we mute.
I'm going to introduce, after you introduce Brenda, I'm going to play the Brenda Wimberly story, which is her introductory video.
All right, everybody. Well, welcome. And let me hit the go live. Let me tell, give me 1 second here, 1 minute. Rachel, as happened yesterday, I'm not able to get that go live now. It killed itself on Facebook. Just hold on, everybody. All right, welcome everyone. We're now going live on Facebook and we're going to be introducing our program tonight. What is opera? By our masterclass musician, soloist, opera performer. Well, we just think of her as Shreveport's diva, Brenda Wimberly. You know, Brenda has been studying and trained at the Marola Young Artist Opera program at the San Francisco Opera, the Young Artist program at the Metropolitan Opera, and the American Institute of Musical Studies in Graz, Austria. Prepared for her classical stage, her extensive repertoire spans opera, oratorio, but I think we're supposed to say oratio. Nod your head, Brenda, at oratio. Thank you. Musical theater,
oratorio.
jazz, the Negro spiritual and contemporary genres. She's a freelance concert artist, and she is performing in more than 35 states, as well as West Germany, Canada, Mexico, the Caribbean, and South Africa. Brenda is the opera's first recipient of the Leon Please, Leontine Price, don't be upset with me wherever you are at whatever time your life is. She received the first Leontine Price Award. She's a Texas State Treasure. Of course, she's a Shreveport Regional Arts Council Fellowship winner, and she's the recent partner performer with the internationally renowned Nick Cave. Tonight's class by Brenda features one of her very good friends and fellow performer, Sylvia Twine. We couldn't be more excited to have you both with us as we learn tonight what is opera. Take it away, Brenda. And Brenda, as we're looking at these gorgeous pictures, just know that on this particular file, there is no music. So if you would enjoy humming or singing to this beautiful introduction that is supposed to have all the words that I just said about your studies, about your performances, about your mastery, we would be more than delighted, but there is no sound to go with this tonight. So you may be the sound.
It's almost over. Okay. Greetings, greetings, greetings. I am so happy that everyone is with us tonight. Tonight we're going to have a discussion on what is opera. And I have with me my colleague and a friend, Sylvia Twine, and who I'd like to just give a little introduction. She's a featured soloist of international and national acclaim and performances in Hanau, Germany, the Kennedy Center, the Embassy of the Czech Republic, to name a few. She studies with the international acclaimed tenor George Shirley and serves as a member of the vocal music faculty at the Duke Ellington School of the Arts in Washington, D.C., and the music director at the historic St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Washington, D.C. I'm so happy that you're here with me, Sylvia, as we ponder what is opera. I'd like to say that to give you a definition of what is opera, it's nothing more than a big dramatical work for stage with soloists, with chorus, orchestra, scenery, costumes, but different in respect of a play or musical theater. You sing the words instead of speaking the words. And in Italian, it's called recitativo. And also another big difference with opera is you do not use microphones to amplify your voice. In classical music, we as vocalists are trained to project our voices without any amplification. And most of the times, operas are presented in foreign languages. This this art form can be traced as far back as the 1600s. And one of the noted composers of opera was Monteverdi, of Italian opera was Monteverdi. And there are different categories. Operas are actually in different, there are different types of operas. You have the comic or the buffa opera, which is very light. And this is usually, the dialogue is often spoken and not sung in this particular type of opera. Then you have the serious opera, which is in Italian, also referred as a Neapolitan opera. And due to the many Italian composers that actually have contributed to that type of opera. Then you have the seria. This type of opera it's serious, but it has a happy ending. And this is it's loosely described as comic and serious opera. And then you have the grand opera. This is referred to a type of opera which emerged in Paris during the 19th century. And the operas of large scale, very flamboyant costumes and choruses. And it also introduced the ballet in this type of opera. And then you have the opera verismo, which is a category in which I usually fall in as a lyric spinto, which we're going to talk about voice types later on in the discussion. And this is a Italian word that means realism. And this type of opera emerged during the late 19th century. And it also states that the characters in this type of opera, the characters were often based on everyday people that you meet in real life. Because a lot of the operas were about mystical themes and from literature and from stories. But this type of opera, it actually uses real people. And I wanted to just talk about some of the parts of the opera, of opera. You have the recitative, which is like a spoken singing type of way of introducing the aria, which is a solo. And then you have the chorus or the ensemble, which is a part of the chorus. Now, in an aria, there's more than just a solo that expresses the emotions. And sometimes before you sing the solo, there is a recitative. Like, for example, from the Mozart opera, The Marriage of Figaro, the aria, the Countess aria, Dove sono. And this is where the Countess, she laments of her broken heart because she thinks that her husband is unfaithful and he does not really, she thinks he's not interested anymore. But that's how this type of opera is set up. So I would like to just give you an example, as we're talking about this, of a recitative. Now, in musical theater, it's usually spoken, but in opera, we sing it. So I'm going to set up the recit to the aria Dove sono. Some of the recit, because we have a lot to discuss. Okay. I'll set up the scene. The Countess, she's outside during the night, and she finds herself waiting on her maid to come out because they have plotted this type of scheme to see if her husband is really not faithful, and to see if he's going to draw into this little plot that they've concocted. But she's standing there and she's saying, now, here I am, the Countess. I'm out here in the dark waiting on my maid to come, my handmaiden, to come and give me some, some aid. I'm just so embarrassed. It's just so embarrassing. So she just talks to herself and she starts. E Susanna non vien, so non si osa di saper come il conte a cosa la proposta. Al contordito il progetto mi par e non lo sposo e vivace e geloso. Ma che c'è? Cangiando i miei vestiti con quelli di Susanna e sue camie a favore della notte. Oh cielo, a qual il mio stato fatale il son ridotto con consorte crudele. Okay, that is a recit. And then she actually composed herself and she sings this very beautiful Dove Sono. And that is a type of recitative that actually comes before the opera, before the aria. Ms. Twine, would you like to chime in on what is opera as well?
Well, I think you've hit all the parts, all of the moving parts, so to speak. Opera is very larger than life. It's larger than life. I think like the composer Mozart would write things, set stories to music. What comes to mind when you're speaking of the Marriage of Figaro is the craziness of that scene, of those scenes, things that would not ordinarily happen on a day-to-day life. You take these stories and elaborate on them. So, Brenda, when you were talking about the Marriage of Figaro, I was thinking about the story and why the Countess is so embarrassed. And there was a law during that time, if I may, where the aristocracy, whenever they had servants that were going to be married, it was the right of the count or the duke or whatever to have the first night with the bride. And so that's what set up the conflict in this opera, because Susanna and Figaro, who were planning to be married, absolutely did not want this to happen, of course, and nor did the Countess. And the Count was about to, this tradition had not been acted upon for a while, but the Count in this opera had his eye on Susanna. And,
yes.
And so Susanna, the Count, and Figaro, who the opera is named after, are plotting and trying to find a way out of this situation. And so it's interesting because when we were talking about tonight, I was thinking back because actually the Marriage of Figaro was the very first opera that I actually saw as a student. Mm-hmm. And I was a student at the Duke Ellington School of the Arts, where I'm now on faculty. And the Washington Civic Opera, they are not active now, but they wanted some students to come and be a part of the chorus. And I was one of the students that were selected to take part in this evening. And so I had heard about this soprano, this wonderful soprano, Regina McConnell, and she was the Countess for that performance. And so I was so enamored by her. I had heard so much about her that I actually, and I'm going to tell on myself now, I actually with another classmate snuck upstairs to the wings so that we could hear her sing Dove Sono. And it was the most beautiful thing. I laid on the floor in the wings and listened to this wonderful, wonderful soprano sing that aria. And at the time I was so young, I didn't know what it was all about. I didn't know what the Italian text meant and what she was talking about. But the one thing about opera is that the music itself, you don't necessarily have to know every word that's coming or understand the text and every word that's coming. The music is so dramatic and it touches the heart and it touches your spirit. And I remember laying there, a young girl, inner city girl from Washington, D.C., and this was my first experience of opera. And that night I said, what is this? And I really want this in my life. And so it was then that I really knew that I wanted to study music and study classical music. And so that's my little bit. I don't know if I jumped the gun, but
No, you didn't. That's
I
great.
was
That's
so moved
because
to
I was
hear
about
you
to
sing that.
because I was about to say, because my first opera was later than that because I had an opportunity. Symphony is what I was introduced to in the third grade, and I remember it so well. And it was a field trip, and we were down at the Civic Theater. My age is coming out now, and so they performed Peter and the Wolf, and they demonstrated the different families of instruments and the violin. And when I heard that, that was so wonderful to me. And so and it stayed with me. And so in middle school, we had a choice to be in the choir or the orchestra, and I chose the orchestra. And so okay, you do. And so I was in the orchestra from the 6th grade until the 11th grade in high school. And so that was my to classical music. It was the symphony. But it was in college when I actually was in the opera. We had it was a partnership. Houston Grand Opera had a partnership with Prairie View. And so they would use our students for all of the ensembles and the chorus during their season. And so just so happened that the semester I actually transferred to Prairie View, they did Aida. And it was huge. I'd never seen real animals on the stage. It was absolutely just so fabulous. And we, of course, were the Ethiopians. And we had beautiful music that we would come in on and everything. But that was my experience. That was my first experience of opera. And so, it's the thing about opera, just as you said, you may not even know what is being said, but now they do have the subtitles, so you can follow the opera. But the music, you can close your eyes and just the music will draw you in because it's so beautiful. And so, and that's one of the things that you want to know why more people are not drawn to opera, and because it's for everyone. And I do understand that it is for everyone. And I know that we in this country, we are now approaching the same type of thing of realism. We're seeing operas being opened up to diversity, and composers, young composers of color are beginning to write in this genre, and actually having those works performed and premiered. Yes, and so it's very interesting that what they are doing because of the segregation. Maybe that's why there is not a lot of people of color who actually engage in it. But I just was very I question this of the masters, especially Giuseppe Verdi. Giuseppe Verdi and his librettist created those stories built on African themes, African backdrops, African people. And so it's fascinating to me that he would, at that time in the 19th century, 18th and 19th century, that he would use Black
Characters. Mhm.
characters.
Yeah.
What was that about? Was he fascinated? I mean, and he did that several times. He did that. He did that in Othello. He did that in, well, even Aida, of course, La Africaine, same way. They're Spanish, but it's still about African women.
Mhm.
So, you know, that's very, I haven't done that research, but I would like to know. And now here you have, in the 21st century, you actually have in America, you have African American composers who are actually creating bodies of work in this genre. So I don't know what your take is on that. It's because it's really interesting.
You know, it is, you know, when I was in undergrad, what dismayed me about looking at the stages in opera, that there were only a handful of African American males. I remember doing a paper, well, I'm going to date myself, a few years ago, and it was called Blacks in Opera. And one of the singers that it just caught my attention, so much so that it was a mission of mine to meet him later on, and that is my former teacher, George Shirley. Looking at the very few people of color in opera, I think I became a little dismayed and, you know, was disheartened because I didn't see enough representation of the Black community on the stage, being not just as singers, but even our story. And most Americans, as you know, many people know Porgy and Bess, and that's where and many people don't really know that it's an opera. They always confuse it and call it a musical.
Musical.
But even if you don't know Porgy and Bess, you know the iconic summertime type of thing. But there's so many composers of color who are now writing our stories. And I had the honor of premiering an opera about Paul Laurence Dunbar, this opera was written by a good friend, Stephen Allen, from the DC area. And it's about, it's a love story about Paul Laurence Dunbar and Alice Ruth Moore, who was also a poet. And it deals with his coming into notoriety about his writing, but he was dismayed because more people were interested in the Black writings, you know, in dialect than his mainstream or majors and minor writing. And so that whole story about the love, and these love letters going back, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful, well-written opera. And it's written for a small cast, and it can be with orchestra or just piano. And we did a few scenes at the Kennedy Center in a program called Page to Stage, which was a wonderful platform for composers, young composers. But this particular piece, I was telling the composer, when you listen to it and you sit back, and especially some of the duets, it reminds me of Puccini meets Britten, Benjamin Britten, the English composer.
Okay.
Yes, because of the way the text is set, but and it's very syllabic, but the melodies are so rich and so beautiful, sweeping lines that that part reminds me of Italian composer Puccini. So I'm glad to see more and more pieces being written and performed. And it's unfortunate that COVID hit, because there was another opera, I think Blue, that was supposed to be premiered at the Kennedy Center, or performed at the Kennedy Center this past spring. But there's a wealth of material out there. It's just the matter of just getting the companies to embrace them.
Yes.
And something that shows us other than being on the plantation, so to speak.
Yes.
That type of community, but really shows our communities as they are, and our talent and our intellect and education and all, the fullness of what African Americans are, and not
exactly
get pigeonholed on a stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
But it's there, and I'm glad to see that the doors are being opened, and you have your Lawrence Brown Lee and Issachar Savage and all of these wonderful singers, especially African American males, who are starting to enjoy careers in performing in opera.
I can remember in one of my classes, we had a composer come to who did a lecture. His name at the University of Michigan. His name was Leslie Bassett, and I asked the question, in the time in Mozart and Handel time, the patrons was the way they were able to live and work without having struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked, so what is the new patron system that we now can compare? And he said
Mm-hmm.
that it is the academy, it is the university campus, is where their work can be performed, discussed, practiced. That's the new patron system, is being able to come to actually exist on college campuses. So that's my segue into how relevant can the HBCUs, how can we invite noted composers of color to come on their campuses and have residencies for a semester or a year? Is that something that we should start to invest in? Because if this is the place where composers are going to be able to they'll be able to exist and be able to create, then we as HBCUs must, it's just a must. We find a way in which we can create that environment so our students can see, they can hear, they can become exposed to other things than they're familiar. And this is how it all happens. And if we can't have it there like that, if we can't have it, then we need to import it. We need to be the ones that sponsor it. We need to be presenters of it. if we can't have it ourselves, and we can't afford it to do it like that ourselves, then we need to become presenters so we can have that kind of thing, not only for the campus, but for the community as well. So, you know, it's just like anything else. If you're exposed to things, then you'll have a better sense of what it is and a deeper appreciation. Because just because you haven't been exposed to opera doesn't mean that you do not like it. It's just like you've never been exposed to it. And so, because I've had many students to tell me, I don't like opera. Why? Is it because it's in a foreign language? Is it something that is hard to follow? It's just as you follow it just like you follow other types of music. You may not understand what it is, but if you can allow yourself to sit and listen and not be antsy, because, you know, it's a thing that, you know, attention spans is very short-sighted. We're very short-sighted. So, but this to me is a way in which, if this is, as Professor Bassett said, that the university is where the composer can exist and can flourish. And so I think this is what's gonna happen for us. It must. I don't know.
Well, you know, if I can add something to that, when I've been at Ellington now, this is my, my 12th year, going into my 12th year there. And about 10 years ago, the Casey Foundation contacted the school and decided that they wanted to bless us with an endowment. But the purpose was to start to develop and train the next Denise Graves.
Yes.
Yes. And so we were mandated to come up with a program or something to help train, expose and train a new generation of opera lovers. And so we came up with the Virginia Williams Opera Prize, which is a $1 million endowment. Yes, and what we do each year, we have a vocal competition between our students, and these are high school students, 9th through 12th grade. We only focus on the 11th and 12th graders, but they compete singing art songs and arias, 3 songs, one in English and 2 language pieces. And from the students, one winner is selected each year. And that student gets a training outside of school. They may be able to travel and to see an opera. Our first winner, I'm going to say her name, Miss Samira Plummer, ended up, she just finished her program at the University of Michigan. And, but she was able to go to Italy for a year and to Austria for a year to train. And so I'm telling you all of this because if I may talk about our platform last week when we were talking about what will it take to engage students more in the arts. And I'm going to go back and say exposure. If we want to create and develop and to nurture an audience for this genre, we have to expose children at an earlier age. So it's not so foreign to the ear. So when they hear these sounds and these beautiful sounds, because the style of singing, the bel canto style of singing opera, is not what they turn on the radio to listen to on a daily basis. So it is going to be foreign to their ears. But it's been my experience, even there at Ellington, when students are engaged in learning this genre, even with our opera workshop program, when they have to go in and learn a scene and they learn, they start to dissect the music and learn about
yes.
the characters, and they realize, oh, well, this character is like my mom, or this particular character is like my next door neighbor, and that they really find themselves, they can begin to see themselves or their world in these characters, and then that it's not so foreign as one would expect, or they thought it was. So it's about exposure, getting them early to at least taste or have a taste of the opera world. By the time they get to college, I fortunately was exposed to opera very, very early, as I was saying. And so, but I did not know if I wanted to sing opera or oratorio. And that was
okay, now we have to stop right there because we have to have a break. And so, but opera and oratorio, as soon as we finish our, my little tribute to these singers, which we're about to do, then we will come back and we're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about the singers first, and then Pam, are you in?
I am here.
Okay.
Are you ready for your break right now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then let me just say thank you so much, both to Sylvia and to Brenda so far. Feel like we're just getting started. It's very exciting. While we take a 5-minute break, let me give you some announcements, please. First, we'd love it if everybody would sign into the chat room and record that you are here. And if you are a student at either Grambling State University or Southern University Shreveport, put that in there. You could even list your professor so that we can make sure that you get the attention of that professor and they know you were here. He or she knows you were here. Also, there's a link in the chat that is for the evaluation form for you to complete at the end of the class, and we share the evaluation form with the faculty at both Grambling and Southern. I want to tell you all that we're looking forward to a phenomenal homecoming weekend with an exhibition and a virtual performance on October the 24th and 23rd and 24th. Friday the 23rd will be the opening of the visual exhibition at Art Space in downtown Shreveport. And on Saturday, October the 24th, will be the virtual performance directed by Rashonda D. Spears of Shufflin' Along and featuring our beautiful Shreveport diva, Brenda Wimberly. So you won't want to miss that, and you'll be able to tune in on Facebook Live to see that performance at 7 p.m. on Saturday night. So I'm hoping that everybody will sign into the chat room, fill out the evaluation, join us every Wednesday from now through the end of October with Brenda, teaching different genres of music. I can't wait to learn more about rhythm and poetry, which is rap.
It is. It's coming up.
All of them. And we'll be back in just a few minutes with more of Sylvia and Brenda. Thank you.
Um,
All right, did everybody get a chance to get something to drink, run to the restroom, and now you're back? I see everybody still online. We haven't lost you, and we're very excited to see everyone back. So Brenda and Sylvia and Rachel, let's go ahead and move with the second half of our program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. This portion of our, this portion of the program is a tribute to some of the African-American sopranos who I have drawn on in my career. And I wanted to give a tribute to these prima donnas. Briefly, I'm going to give you a little of their history and how I came about the association with each and every one of these wonderful trailblazers. And the next slide, please. Our first wonderful trailblazer is Cicerita Jones, and who was known as the Black Patty. And before Sylvia is going to actually give us just a few bullets about this wonderful, soprano, and how I got to actually research Cicerita is my friend at the University of Michigan who was doing his doctorate, Dr. Gerald Walker. He was doing one of his dissertation recitals, and I had told him that I had just finished doing Ernani, and Volame at San Francisco Opera in the Young Artist Program. And he said, well, I'm doing my research on Cicerita Jones, and I'd like for you to do that on my program. And that's how I had an opportunity to sing that aria, which I had only been introduced at San Francisco. And but it was a wonderful experience. But I'd like for Sylvia to talk about Cicerita Jones and her knowledge of her. You are muted.
Sorry, I'm muted. Well, thank you, Brenda. It's wonderful that you mentioned Dr. Derek Walker, because it was around that time I met him as well. And I remember him working on this dissertation, and I was sharing with him that I am actually a descendant of Cicerita Jones, and how I was introduced to that fact by my grandfather, but I was rather young, and so it didn't really mean much when he first told me. But as I started studying music and voice, having that lineage was very special. So Cicerita Jones, Matilda Cicerita Jones is her name, and she was nicknamed the Black Patty after the Italian prima donna Adelina Patti. And what do I say? The newspapers, once Cicerita made her debut and started to perform, they were so excited about her voice, and they equated her to Adelina Patti. And so they referred to her as the Black Patty. But she was born to Jeremiah, and her mother was Henrietta Jones, and they were in North Carolina, moved to Portsmouth, Virginia, down in the Tidewater, Virginia area, which I was actually born there, and was there till I think about to the age of 8, and then moved to Providence, Rhode Island, where she began her studies at the Academy of Music there, and at age 15, and then later on did some more serious study at the Boston Conservatory. But when she was at the Academy, she began to take piano and theory, of course, voice, and all of those musicianship building classes. When she began to perform at this point, which was, I guess, very rare for especially an African-American singer, but at one point she was making almost $2,000 a week as a performer, and that was a lot of money during that time. And so she began and sustained a very lucrative career, performing and traveling all over the world. She would go on to stage with awards, these medals that she had been given for performances. One notably was from Carnegie Hall. And so she would wear them as badges of honor, and had them attached to her gowns that she would perform in. And so it's wonderful. You look back and see some of these pictures of her adorned with all of her awards and medals, almost as if she was a military officer, so to speak. But she wore her honor, and it was wonderful. And so for many years, she enjoyed a very lucrative career, traveled the world, until sadly her mother became ill. And so she left the stage to care for her mother, and used after a while, her money started to run out, and she began to sell her homes, and of which she had about 4 homes at the time, at the height of her career. But one by one, to sustain her family, she began to sell off her assets. And some of these assets were her medals. The Howard University, I was told, had the medal that she had received. They came across it from a donor, but she had received this medal from Carnegie Hall. And now the Carnegie Museum has it on loan. I don't know if it's still there. But sadly to say, she ended, her life ended in poverty. And she went from being one of the highest paid artists, Black or white, in this country, to being an impoverished woman. And that's sad. But she had a very lucrative career, very impressive career, stage career in opera and stage recital.
Very good. Our next slide. Dorothy Maynard. And I will tell you that the next 3 slides are all of my training at San Francisco Opera, and where I was able to perform their signature arias. So I just have to give homage to these great singers, great American singers. So Dorothy Maynard was born in Norfolk, Virginia. And here again, a noted Black American soprano and a music educator. She was the daughter of clergy, and was highly praised. She's one of the most highly praised singers of the 1940s and 50s. She began singing in her father's church at an early age. She actually was educated at Hampton Institute, where she received her bachelor's in 1933. And she began her career and singing in various choirs and touring on Europe with that background, touring all over Europe. But after she graduated from Hampton, she attended Westminster College in Princeton, New Jersey. And there is a African-American writer by the name of Rosalind Story, who's written a book and the reason why she wrote the book is because that she just did not see enough about singers that were of African American descent. There was little information about them, but we knew that they existed because we were all trying to emulate them. So we knew, but she wrote this book and it was called And So I Sing. And in that book about African-American divas of opera and concert, she stated that she nonetheless learned arias from dozens of operas and was featured, those arias were featured on her concerts. She was a concert artist of note, but her signature aria was Depuis le Jour, and from Charpentier's Louise. And at San Francisco, that aria was given to me, which I did perform with the San Francisco Symphony, which was one of those arias that is limpid and it just floats. And it's an amazing aria, and I wish I had it to play for you all, but we do not have those recordings. At the peak of her career, she performed with most of major American operas and was sought after and hot and one of the most highly paid singers during that time in the concert world. Her recordings were bestsellers, and she was regularly heard on radio shows. And but during her retirement, she did decide to retire after many years of concertizing, and she founded the Harlem School of the Arts, and which was founded in 1963, and with Dorothy actually teaching piano. She had only 12 students then, and she had the school in a church annex. But by the time she did retire, she had a space of more than 37,000 square foot facility and over 1,000 students in college preparatory programs in the performing and visual arts. That's the legacy in which she have left, because she understood that young African-American children, students, needed a place where they needed a laboratory where they could come and express and learn knowledge and get knowledge of what it is that they say that they desire to do. And that is what she left. Now, although she was a very noted American concert artist, she never performed at the Metropolitan Opera. But they did invite her to become a member of the board at the Metropolitan Opera, although she never did perform there. And she settled in Pennsylvania, in a small town in Pennsylvania with her husband, and she actually succumbed she died 1996. But what a legacy that she has left to us. And a lot of us do not know who she is. That we just have to keep talking about the women and the men. But for me, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, and these people have they've studied and they've done the things that they were supposed to do, and they should be cherished and remembered, The next slide, please. This is Leona Mitchell. This is, she is a Grammy Award winner, has emerged as one of America's leading lyric spinto sopranos, and have been in demand in the world over in opera, concerts, recitals, television appearances. She has sung hundreds of performances at major opera houses in the world, including 18 seasons at the Metropolitan Opera in New York. She was one of the first American singers to not have to go out of this country, African-American singers, to not have to go out of the country to actually have a career, because that was the way the things were during that time. If you wanted to have some recognition, you had to leave the country. But she was one that did not have to do that. She did not do that. And she was a wonderful, wonderful talent, and she performed in opera houses like Covent Garden in Vienna, San Francisco, the Australian, Rio de Janeiro, the pyramids of Egypt. She just was world renowned. She holds two honorary doctorates, one from Oklahoma City and the other from Oklahoma University. She attended and received her master's from Juilliard School of Music in New York. Ms. Mitchell is a native of Enid, Oklahoma. And I, again, had an opportunity to actually use one of her arias, from Turandot. She was Liu, the character of Liu in Turandot. And I had to learn how to die on stage and tuck and roll and fall and roll downstairs, singing this singing the aria, singing this aria, Chu Kedi Jase Chinta, which was one of her signature arias. But I had to learn that aria, stab myself, bend, tuck, roll, fall down, roll downstairs. It was amazing. It was something else. I died very graciously. That's all I can say. Matter of fact, that's what my stage director said. Brenda, if nothing else, you died gracefully. I never will forget that. But she was not only a fabulous Liu, she was a wonderful Madame Butterfly. And I can remember when I was still an undergraduate, we had the opportunity to sing in the, Madame Butterfly at the Houston Grand Opera, and I was a geisha. Matter of fact, I was the first geisha that walked across the bridge on the humming song. And one of the problems they had with me, I was the only African-American in that as a geisha. And I looked like I was in blackface. And I tell you, I just completely came unhinged. I just could not believe that white makeup they had on my face with nothing. I mean, I just couldn't believe. I said I was not going out there in it. So they realized that with my tone of skin, they had to paint me another color and then put on the hue of the geisha. It worked out fabulously. I walked across that bridge and looking, and no one could tell who I was. So I was very excited about that. But that was a wonderful experience, and one of those experiences will stay with me because African Americans had a hard time sometimes with makeup, and I can bear witness to that because that's what happened to me during that time. The next slide. Leontine Price. It wasn't what you want to do, it's who you wanted to be. I wanted to be the next Leontine Price. I just felt like I could succeed and do what she was forced. She was a force to be reckoned with in every sense of the word. And the reason why she was excellent at what she did is that she did not allow anything, not family, not children, not anything that would interfere in her career. Because it's not easy. I know people, she walks out, and any of these singers will walk out and you think it's easy. It's not easy. And to be able to learn roles the way that she did, and she had to do multiple roles because she would be studying for a role and performing a role on stage. And so lots of concentration, lots of focus, lots of discipline. And that's exactly, in classical training, that's exactly what we had to do. You had to focus. You had to shut things out. You had to shut people out. It's no way you can learn these roles and be distracted. And so it's no way you could work on your music and be distracted. There's 3 or 4 different things you're trying to do at one time, in sometimes a short amount of time, because sometimes they didn't give you, in some of the arias and some of even the art songs, they wouldn't give you, but sometimes a week to learn a new song. Every week you had to do a new song. And so that calls for lots of concentration. And she is one. Leontine Price is just an absolute role model for all young singers who are anticipating on having a career in opera, a career in classical music. Leontine Price was born February the 10th, 1927. She is an American soprano who was raised in Laurel, Mississippi, and she rose to international. She's one of the first American classical singers to rise to the international level. That's by no means, that's everybody who was in that field at that time. She was very few rose to the international acclaim as she did in the 50s and 60s. And she was the first African-American to become a leading performer at the Metropolitan Opera, one of the most popular American singers of her generation. And it's just, it's an honor to actually see this woman. She's still alive, and to know of the wonderful legacy she have left us in terms of a body of work, a body of music, recorded music, just unsurmountable amount of music that she's left for us. Reviewing her televised farewell opera performance at the Met in 1985 was Aida. And they described her voice as vibrant and soaring. And the magazine called her voice rich, subtle, and shiny. She was, of course, a lyric spinto soprano. That means that it was a pushed sound, but it spin. It just floats and spins at the top. There's a shimmer in the voice. And so it actually came through. And the pianissimos were very even and smooth and very, very difficult to do. The opera's Aida, she was a verismo soprano. So she would do all of those, all the Leonoras, Puccini and Verdi were the ones that she really brought to fame, and also Mozart as well. After her retirement from opera, she continued to appear in recitals in orchestra and orchestra concerts until 1997. Among her many honors and awards are the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the Kennedy Center honors, the National Medal of Arts, the American Academy of Achievement, and numerous honorary degrees, and 19 Grammys and operatic song recitals and full operas. And I can remember when she did not make her debut. Her American debut was not at the Metropolitan Opera. Her American debut was at San Francisco Opera. And once she retired, she came back to San Francisco, and I had just happened to be there during that summer for the Maryland Opera Training Program. And so, and she gave me some, she really did talk to me a lot. And I was working on Aida at the time. And I felt so humble and nervous because I just could believe I didn't feel like I was in the room with greatness, and here I am trying to pursue this. But she told me in no uncertain terms that the role of Aida is yours, because she would clap her hands, she would touch her skin, because you wear your costume. You don't have to do anything but just sing, because you already embody the role. And that just really stuck with me forever. I still remember it so vividly. And she gave me some wonderful tips, and she chose me to actually sing. Charles Perrault did a interview with her. She chose me and Mark Coles, an African-American baritone. And we sang on Sunday morning with Charles Perrault. And I did the beautiful, that aria, Il Son Leon, I can't even remember.
Sonia.
So yeah, and so I can't even remember, Insomnia. I couldn't even remember.
Sonia, di Doretta.
Che bel sogno di Doretta, the Doretta's aria. Well, I sang that on Sunday morning, and that was such an honor for me. And to be honored with the first Leontine Price Award from San Francisco Opera was another honor for me. And doing that during her signature aria, O Patria Mia, for the grand finals. So the four women that we've discussed, they are just deeply embedded in American history, and they must be remembered, and they must be recognized as some of the greatest that America could produce. And so, and I'm just so proud to have the opportunity to actually witness two of these women in my life. There are many more. There are many more singers, both male and female, that should be recognized, of color, that should be recognized. But the four that we discussed tonight are the ones that have been in my life. And so with that said, I'd like to, you see that serious look that she has on her face? The next slide, please. And I will, let me set this. Okay, yeah, just, this is right, that's right. What happened? Yes, this is the many faces of Brenda Wimberly. And as I study, as I try my best to be the very best performer that I can, and one of the arias that, my very first aria was Visidarte from the opera Tosca. And I'll set this aria up because you will hear my interpretation of it in just a minute. This is a prayer. Visidarte is a prayer. And in the scene, Tosca is in with the sergeant of arms, you may say, Scarpia. And Scarpia has have taken her lover in prison. He's imprisoned, and he said that he would let him go. He tells her, I will let Cavaradose go if you do my bidding. And that meant, you know, to be alone with him. Now, and this is when she, you know, we don't question God, but she questioned, God, why in my time of need you leave me? I love beauty. I love art. I give flowers to the Madonna. Why have you forsaken me at this hour? So she sings this very poignant prayer. And the next slide, I'm going to sing it and then I'll tell you what happens. The next slide, please. Technology. Okay, to the next. Before we listen, now I am a lyric spinto soprano. My voice spins. Although I have depth, I have height in the voice, and it spins at the top. Now you're going to listen to Sylvia Twine, who is a mezzo soprano, and listen to her voice. She has two pieces. They're short pieces, and so we're going to talk about what type it is and her voice. Okay, so the next one. Next slide. Next. Next slide. One more click. Now, what type of soprano are you? I am a lyric spinto. Miss Twine is a mezzo soprano. And we have these characteristics in our voice. And I use mine for most of mine, I use mine in my arias. And Miss Twine uses hers in her arias and her oratorios. And she's gonna tell us what an oratorio is. Miss Twine, tell us what it is.
Well, yes, an oratorio is basically an unstaged opera, so to speak. It is a story. The storylines are mostly religious, but it has all of the wonderful things that opera has. It has the soloist, the orchestra, the chorus. It has a storyline, but it is not staged. It's not staged. You don't have the acting, but it does have recitative in most places, short recits. That is the dialogue that comes before the air. The air is like the aria in Italian. It can be as dramatic as what you just heard from, that was excerpts from the Verdi Requiem. Verdi wrote opera as well. So this particular oratorio is very operatic in nature, but it could also take on the air of like the Messiah, which is a lot lighter. But as I said before, it is mainly, the storylines are mainly religious in nature.
Okay, now, I describe my voice as a lyric spinto soprano, and the characteristics of my voice is that I have both depth and height, and when I do take the voice into the stratosphere, it does spin, and it's a shimmer, and it's a bright sound. And describe your voice.
My voice is richer, and I like to say that I actually studied for many years as a soprano, but as
and I'm sure you have soprano notes.
After the voice said, "Oh, we're going to change things up," so I actually have landed in mezzo land, and very happy with it, because the mezzo voice, me and my voice, I have some of the height, a lot of the height, not as high as you, Madam Wimberly, but I have the height. But more lower notes, lower notes below the staff. And I like to say, I can go up there, but I just don't live there. So the meat of my voice is in the middle of the, on the staff. And
yes.
The F and G, and sometimes A above the staff.
Okay, yes.
I can go there. but I don't, my voice doesn't live there. So the true meat of my voice, where it's the most richest and speaks more, is to those notes that lie right on the staff.
Yes. And see, I always say, okay, my highest note is that D above high C. And that's my money note. I don't live there, but I can do the note, but I'm not going to stay there. But those are the two. There are many, many characteristics and there are many categories of the soprano. The soprano can be as high as a soubrette, which is above F and G's. That's just, you know, just off the Richter scale, like Mariah Carey, to a lyric contralto, and to all the way to the spinto, to the dramatic, the dramatic contralto. And so we run the gamut. We actually use something that we call the FOC system in actually categorizing our voice. And
yes,
that German system, it makes it so that you can sing on you can sing what they say you are, but you also can sing what's above the category above you or the category below you. And so that means that, you know, you have a wide range of roles to actually play from, and it gives a good idea of exactly what your voice can do. And so and we use that in classical music. And is there anything else, Sylvia, you'd like to say about voicing?
Yeah, well, you know, I said, once in a while you'll come across voices that do not fit neatly into those five categories.
Yes.
And I'd just like to mention Jessie Norman.
Yes.
Who left us last year.
Yes, last year.
Yes, last year she passed away. That voice was very unique, a fabulous instrument, fabulous singer. But you could pick up a CD of Jessie's, or an album back in the day, and she would be singing these wonderful arias and would categorize herself as, or classify herself as, soprano. And
That's
then
right.
6 months later, she'll release another CD or album, and you look, and then she's classified herself as mezzo.
Exactly. She and Shirley Verrett were the ones that they did that. Shirley Verrett, and this is what she said: "I will sing anything that's comfortable to me. It doesn't matter if it's the high and the low note. If I can do them, I will sing it."
That's right. So it's about what fits the voice, the repertoire that fits the voice. And as I was saying, I trained as a soprano, so I sang some of those. I remember my last Visi d'arte and and my last Rejoice Greatly as a soprano.
Yes.
In my undergrad degree. But as the voice started to change, it just started to fill out, and it didn't feel the same when I was singing those things. And working there with George Shirley, he helped discover that, you know, maybe this voice is still developing into what it was going to be or meant to be, and that was the mezzo. So men and women's voices mature at a different time, and so yeah, I was in, I'm going to date myself now, but I was in my early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, when the voice started to really show signs of what it was truly going to be.
Okay, my last slide. These are some informants tips. Informants, because I'm giving you information, and these are some things that you can use in your performing. Things you should have. You should have a professional headshot, several headshots. You should have a career letter of your music background, education, training opportunities as such. Then you also should have a performance bio vita. That is your highlights of all of your performances chronologically. They usually do not want more than 5 years of what it is that you're doing, especially if you are auditioning, young people who are auditioning. You must have, Sylvia, am I correct? You must have 5 or 6 arias that you can sing in your sleep.
Yes, absolutely.
I know that you are doing the George Shirley competition, and what are the requirements for that competition?
Well, there are different levels.
Okay.
And I was involved with the high school, and so they're asking that you have one aria, one art song, and an African American spiritual. But this is music that is I won't even say primary. It's the music must be by an African American composer. Yeah, for that particular competition.
Okay.
Yes.
I know that, and I don't think it has changed. You must have 4 or 5 arias, different in different languages, and showing the agility of the voice. And you must be able to perform those. And those that you carry around with you all the time, good for auditions. And your demo should represent your best work as well. If you have some release or clippings, and the 2 publications that I know that you still use as resources is the Opera News and Musical America, where you'll find all the competitions, you'll find management. Those two publications are very good. Sylvia, do you know of any other publication that will help you with management?
Classical singer.
Classical singer.
Also,
Okay, yes,
yeah.
yes.
And you know, I want to add, in Europe now, the rage is that the norm is to offer your vitae and headshot as one document. So yeah, when you present it, your picture should be
your picture's on one side and the vita is on the other side?
No, on the same side.
Oh, on the same side. Oh,
yes.
okay. See, you know, all of this is changing.
Yeah, and this was quite interesting to me. But I guess in this day and time, when you're sending documents to represent yourself to agencies or performing venues, they really want to quickly look at everything. So to make it as concise as possible.
Like a bird's eye view. Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. We are so out of time. I hope no one. Are there any questions? This has been quite a wonderful. This is a treat for me because I don't get a chance to share how I actually have processed. And so to have this opportunity, I just thank Pam for allowing me to use this time to do this. Pam, I'm back.
I'm just trying to decide what the word is for an off-key alto, since you've talked about all of the other forms there.
An off-key alto is someone who cannot sing. You call them monotone.
Okay. Well, I thought that I was tone deaf. However, I could distinctly hear the differences in the rich tones and silvery voices of you and Sylvia. So thank you so much. There has been one request on our chat line of all of those who have patiently enjoyed this session until a little bit later than usual. And I think you both must figure out how to honor the request that comes from the head of the Fine Arts Department and English Department at Southern University Shreveport, Dr. Lonnie McCrae, who says, "Won't you please sing us out?"
Sylvia. I don't have, what could we do? Because what we're going to work on.
Please, I'm even showing my video, please.
Thank you, Lonnie. Great question.
Well, what can we do together? Because quick, I don't know what we can do.
Good night, ladies.
I don't know.
Okay.
Give us something from opera. Give us something opera.
Amen. 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 Sing it
Over.
over. Amen. 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 Oh, yes, Sylvia. Sing yours.
Oh, glory. Oh, glory. There is room enough in paradise to have a home in glory.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, my goodness.
As we revert back to our heritage.
Thank you.
Well,
Beautiful.
we love that. We thank you. Please, everybody, in your chat is an opportunity to do an evaluation. We want 5 stars. And please know that this recording will be on our Facebook and on our website in the next week or so. And remember, you'll get to see Brenda as she performs in our virtual performance on Saturday, October the 24th. And she'll be right here next week. What's our topic next week, Brenda?
A cave. It is Nick Cave.
And while she's saying that, tomorrow night, you can tune in at 6 p.m. to either the performance site right here. If you're visual or performance, tomorrow night we have Dr. Sharon Heron Williams, who will be sharing with us the history and impact of HBCUs on the arts in our nation. Historically Black colleges and universities, their impact on the arts across America. You won't want to miss it. Tune in at 6 o'clock tomorrow to be with us.
And next Wednesday is going to be music and popular culture.
Popular culture. All right.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Please, again, do your part in the chat and have a very great night. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I feel like I shouldn't quite end it until but thank you very much. Well, if I do, the chat will be gone.
No, the chat is saved forever.
Oh,
I can access it whenever.
they can access it too if I
Oh
have it?
no, are they still chatting?
Well, I mean, they're signing in.
Oh, maybe ask their
They're
name.
getting the evaluation form. But now they're all gone.